Okay, so we have looked at all the tables. We know the content of all the tables. We have done an ER diagram. And one thing in the ER diagram that I want to talk a little more is that we need to make sure that we have, let me get my pen. We need to make sure that we have the primary keys identified here in the ER diagram. That is very important. So what I'm going to do is to make this circle here, something similar to that, or maybe I can put a key or something like that, whatever you want to do, but usually you put a key here. So put a key here and the key here, and there are two keys here because there are two primary keys, and you have one primary key here and then one primary key here. So we need to identify the primary keys also in the ER diagram. So I'm going to use this ER diagram. I'm going to use this ER diagram to come up with the relationships in my regular access. So as I previously said, this is the logical portion of the database, and we are going to do the physical portion of the database, which is actually doing the relationships per se. So let's form some relationships. To form the relationships, we need to go to Database Tools and click on Relationships. And you will see a window pop up here. And in that window pop up, you can add tables. I'm going to add all the tables one by one. I'm going to delete this. So all the tables one by one. Or I can actually bring the order details over here. And then I can bring the orders like this as well. And then the products, and then my order mode. So now the idea is to make sure that to form relationships, the idea is to make sure you identify the primary key and you identify the foreign key in the corresponding table. So in this case, the customer table, customer ID is a primary key. In orders table, I have customer ID here, and that is my foreign key. So I'm going to take the primary key and drop it on the foreign key, and here a pop-up window comes up. The pop-up window shows me that the table is customer and customer ID, the table is orders and customer ID, and it also gives me three different things to check. So these three boxes should be checked. Basically what we are doing here is to ensure referential integrity. That means if you delete a data somewhere in some table, all the relationships to that particular data should be deleted as well. If you update a data in a particular table, all the other data which is related to that in other tables should also be updated. That's what we are trying to do. So this will automatically do that. That is the beauty of Access. So once you come up with that, it also tells me that this is one-to-many, and I can create. So I created a relationship between customer and orders, and I can see that it is one-to-many. Many is represented by infinity here. And I'm going to do the same thing for orders and order details. So I'm going to take the order ID and drop it off at the order ID, which is the foreign key. And I'm going to do the same things here after checking that I have orders and order details and order ID and one-to-many. So now I'm going to, what happened? I'm going to create. Same thing I'm going to do with product ID and product ID. Product ID, this is the product ID, is a primary key, and I'm going to bring it to this, my foreign key. And I'm going to form the integrity part of it. I'm going to create it. I'm also going to take this customer ID, and this is CID here, and I'm going to enforce relationships, and this is also one-to-many, and I have created that. So now I can see that my relationships are created with all the tables. So all my tables are joined right now. Now I can query anything. I can get information from any one of these tables or a combination of any of these tables. That's what the relationships can help me to attain. Okay, so let's do that. So once I finish this, I'm going to close this window and I'm going to save it. And now if I go back to database tables and click on relationships, I see the relationships. Okay. The next thing I want to do is to create queries. So I'm going to create these queries one by one. And for that, if you can take that Word document, that the ICE document that I had, make sure that have it open and make sure that you take notes for each one of those things so that when you hear me say something, you can write it down. Okay, that will be helpful. Also, you can take notes basically. So I'm going to go with, hang on one second, guys. I'm going to open my Word document and give me a minute. So let me open my Word document. You'll have a PDF document, but basically the same thing. So what I'm going to do is to go through these queries one by one. And I want you to follow me and make sure that you take some notes and then you do the answers, write down the answers and upload it on Blackboard. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this Word document and I'm going to start working on my queries one by one. The first query is, who are my customers from Indiana? So when I'm asking for who are my customers from Indiana, I need to think about one thing. What tables do the data contain? So what tables? In this case, the only table that has this kind of data is the tables called customers. No other table has got anything about customers from any place. So from that table, I need to pull out some answers. So I need only one table, which is customers. And in that, I need to know the last name and the first name of my customers. So that will give me all the customers from Indiana. Okay, so let's do that. So to do that, the first thing is I'm going to go to Create. In Create, I'm going to go with Query Design. In the Query Design, I want only one table, which is customer, and I'm going to add that and I'm going to close it. Okay, so what I would like you to do is, if you have access, I would like you to stop here and then open up and then see how to do the queries. That will help you to understand it much better. If you do not have access on your computers, don't worry, just follow the video. So I have this customer table open. I need to know all the customers from Indiana. So first of all, let me get all the customers from all the states. And then I can put a constraint called Indiana. And then I can come up with all the customers from Indiana. And that's what I would like to do. So I want, if I double click on last name and first name and the state, those are the three things that I need. Okay, I need the last name, first name, and the date. So now I can run it. See this thing run here? I can click on that and it gives me all my customers. See, I have 30 records. Those are the 30 customers I have. I have 30 records. So I have 30 records and I have all the states here. Now I need to come up with customers only from Indiana. How do I do that? I go back to my design view and see this. There is something called criteria. There is a row called criteria. So in this, let's take a look. You have first the field, then the table. I'm getting some tea. So tea is good for health. Field, table, and then you have sort, and then you have show, and then you have criteria, and then you have something called R. So let me explain what's happening here. So the field is the field name. The table is where the field name is coming from. So the last name is a field which is in customer table, and that's all you have. Sort. I can sort the answers. If I click on this, I can see ascending, descending, and all that stuff. So I can make it ascending for the time being. And then show, if I do not have this checked in the results, when I run it, it will not show. It will not show. Okay? So for it to show in the results, I need to make sure that this is checked, or this box is checked. In the criteria, okay, in the criteria, I'm going to go to state. And this is where I want to put the criteria. And what is the criteria that I need to put in this? Since I want customers from Indiana, the criteria should be Indiana. Okay. So how is Indiana represented here? That is the next question I need to ask myself. So for that, I need to open the table customer. And if I go to the design view of the customer, the state is a text. A state is a text. It's a short text. So it's a text. Okay. And how is the data? The data is like, it doesn't say Indiana, but it says IN, the abbreviation for Indiana. So I need to use IN. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of this table because I don't need that. When you click on that X, it doesn't mean that you are getting rid of it, but you're actually, it is there. Don't worry about it. It is still there. It is saved. So you don't need to worry about it. So you can always get out. So in the state, I'm going to type IN within quotes. And why do I do that within quotes? That's because this is a text. So one thing is for sure, when there is a text, you need to put quotes. And one more thing, when there is a date, you need to put pound. Okay. So now I've typed everything. I needed the state, Indiana, and that is the criteria. Now I can run it. If I go to design, I can click on run. And now I see Indiana, all my Indiana customers. There is Max Wagner, Johan Wagner, Amy, Sheila, Bryce, Thomas, and Sarah. Okay, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 records, and that is what I have. So I have 7 customers from Indiana. Okay, so the answer is 7. So now that we have formed the query, I'm going to get out. And at that time, it is going to ask me, do you want to save changes? I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to call it query number 1. I'm going to click OK. And now you'll see query 1 here. Okay. So you can always go back to query 1 and then you can see your results. Okay. Now I want to do query 2. And I'm going to do the query 2, which is, who are my customers from Indiana and Michigan? Now I need to add Michigan, and I need to use this and here. Okay, and Michigan. So I want to make sure that my customers from Indiana and Michigan are represented. So for that, I'm going to, I can go to my first query itself, and then I can go to my design view. And here I'm going to do what hang on one second. Okay, so I'm going to do the query